Hi everyone, I'm here with Suzanne Hart from Suzanne Hart Events. Nice to see you, Suze.
Yeah, you too, Todd.
You know, you and I have worked together for how many years?
Oh, gosh. That's a very long time.
It is a long time.
We started off our lives together in Perth, working for IBM.
Yeah, it was a long time
ago. And
ago.
in hospitality way back then. So our first conference, I think we ran in about 1994 together.
I remember you being part of the events team in IBM in Perth.
Yes.
And then working together, running events for corporate mainly.
Yeah, correct.
And so you've been doing this for 20 years now.
A long time. Yeah.
Now, I understand you've also got a background in hospitality, which probably makes it easier for you to work out what type of venue or what's going to be suitable when making a venue selection. And I know many of you who are running events for promotional purposes or running workshops, or even if you're running your own speaking gig as an example, choosing an event can make an enormous difference to the success of the way people perceive it, how well it runs and so on.
Yeah.
What would you say are the important considerations that you need to have in place in order to choose the right venue?
I think it's always has a lot to do with location, there's no doubt about that, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a 5-star hotel or a venue that everybody knows. Sometimes a location that's a little off the beaten track, or even a venue that might be a new and exciting venue that people haven't heard of and haven't seen before, makes it that much more attractive to actually come along to.
Now, what's that hotel in Sydney? It's got one letter. Is it Q?
QT?
Yeah. There you go. Well, it's got 2 letters then.
Yeah, it's got 2 letters. Last time we checked,
Yeah.
That's a fantastic hotel, and it's a great brand that they're rolling out across the country too. I think Melbourne's about to get its QT. I'm not sure if it's this year, but that's about those hotels. Great draw cards for people because they look and think, this is something that I wouldn't normally come into.
Yep.
It depends on what your event is, of course, because if you're all about the content, then and you want people to just come in, watch, be a part of it, listen to a speaker. The focus is all about maybe a seminar that's easy for people to reach from, if they're in the city, they want to come in the morning and do what they need to do and then get back to work.
So it's about location. It's a little bit like real estate.
Yes.
So making it easy for your delegates to get there.
Absolutely.
And so I'd gather then that if it's a weekend, a city venue can actually be very good because your parking's going to be easy and cheap in that environment.
And that's the other thing, it's about knowing your audience, of course. But so many times I think people choose venues and they choose a destination because they think that they like it.
Yep.
Or we've always wanted to go to, the Gold Coast, for example. God bless the Gold Coast. But that's not enough reason from my point of view.
Yeah.
If you know your audience, then first and foremost you say to people, where are these people coming from and what's important to them? If we're talking about a weekend, a draw card might be for people to come from regional areas, if that's where your audience is coming from, to have a wonderful weekend in the city that they wouldn't normally get to do.
Right. Well, let's say you've narrowed it down to a geographic location. It's come down to choosing the venue, the physical venue itself. What are the things to watch out for?
I think it's important to do a really thorough site inspection and visit. My mantra has always been never book a venue or a hotel or accommodation that you haven't actually physically seen yourself.
Yeah, I know that the photos always look quite different to reality.
Well, they can. That beautiful swimming pool can really just be a spa.
That's right.
And the room can be tiny and have really low ceilings.
Yeah.
And for us, it's also about the feel of the room that you have when you walk into it.
Yep.
There are some spaces that you just walk into and straight away think, this is fantastic. This is going to work really well. Other areas that you think, I can't imagine how I'm ever going to fit 150 people in this foyer having tea and coffee together.
Yeah.
Well, how are we going to feed them?
Yeah.
It's just actually physically not possible.
So let's look at a checklist. One is when you're doing the site inspection, you want to look at the physical side of things first, which is the room big enough?
Yes.
And also, you mentioned a good point there, is the foyer area going to be suitable enough? Are there breakout areas?
Correct.
If you're not catering, obviously things like are there shops and restaurants and cafes nearby as well?
Yes.
Once you've narrowed that down, look, as a speaker, I've got a number of things or speaker and a producer of events, I've got a number of factors that I like to take into consideration. What are yours, though? About the room itself?
Well, I think I know that AV and audiovisual and the technical side of things is very close to your heart, also to ours. If you can't hear a speaker, if you can't see them, then guess what happens? People start talking and they're distracted. So it's important that the infrastructure is there, or the ability to bring that infrastructure with you.
Isn't it funny how people will forget about the content and they'll whinge about the fact that they can't hear very well?
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, no matter how great the content is, they're sitting there going, oh, this is no good.
Yeah.
And look, one of the things that I learned recently is that it could be the difference between $100 on an extra pair of speakers to put further down the room.
Absolutely.
And that's enough to keep everybody happy, because if they can hear you, they can always go, look, can I have a copy of the slides or something afterwards? But if you can't hear properly, that's a real problem.
And I think that it's one of the largest issues that we face in the events industry is helping our clients understand why those additional costs are justified. And I think you just need to always come back to just put yourself in a situation where you've been to an event and maybe you've stood up the back and you can't see the speaker very well, or the speaker's walking around with the microphone and they're talking this way, you just are not going to enjoy it. So if you kind of bring everything back to what happens to me when I am attending an event, then I think that you might look at things in a different way.
Sure. You also mentioned ceiling height, and I've got a thing about that. It's the higher the ceiling, the further up you can have your screen, the more people are going to be able to see it. Plus it opens up the room a little bit. Let's do the opposite. Let's say the room is too big. It's that whole feeling of a marble in a shoebox rolling around.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts about what you could do there?
Well, there are plenty of ways that you can help a room to, I guess, help people in a room to not feel quiet. So it could be the way that the seating is set up. So if you have a really large room, again, depending on the content and the style of the event, you might like to look at putting round tables in, so people can really maybe relax and take notes, talk and interact amongst themselves. We love an interactive presentation. It's what we know people will walk away feeling really comfortable. However, if that's not possible, if you're, a lot of the rooms that we look at, the first thing that you see might be pillars. I actually think pillars are our friends when it comes to a larger room. You can take a bigger space and you can work within the confines of that. So
you can have the main theatre space and then the other bits outside the pillars can be breakout areas.
Absolutely. So there's just, I think what we've learnt over the years is just about the way you look at things. Let's walk into a space and say, does it fit our criteria?
And look, everyone, it's okay to ask the hotel or the venue staff for a chair, plonk it down where you think the back row will be, and have a look at where the screens are. And look, you said you can use in-house suppliers or the ability to use external. Again, that's another area not to scrimp and save. I know a lot of people say, I'll save myself the $50 by bringing my own projector in. I can tell you one thing, that's false economy. If your projector blows a lamp at the time, then you're going to have to run around and try and get a new lamp for it. If one of their projectors blows a lamp, somebody will be in with a replacement immediately. So it's that whole peace of mind thing that can make the difference between an event running smoothly or one where people concentrate on what went wrong rather than what went right. And I know you and I have had a saying in the past, it's about being the swans on the lake. You see the grace of them moving along very smoothly on top, but somebody's pedalling furiously underneath, and that's usually the event management team.
Absolutely, and as long as the client and the guests or the delegates don't see any of that, then that's our job.
Fantastic.
Make sure it all works.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thanks,
can you
Toby.
give us one last hint on, if you're choosing a venue, the one thing for people to really focus on?
I think the most important thing for me is go and visit. Just
okay.
be there. Just be there in the flesh. There's nothing that is ever going to substitute actually standing there and looking around.
And can I say, if you decide to run your event in Bangkok, then you have to go once beforehand.
It's called the ultimate site inspection.
Now, if they want to use your services, Suze, where can they get your information? Their information.
I'm Suzanne Hart Events, which comes down to she.
Okay, there you go.
So we're she.net.au, and we're a boutique event management company. It's what we do best. And
look, if you've got any questions, pose a question to Suzanne and she'll probably write a blog about it. Thanks, Suze.
Yeah, thanks, Toby.
All right. By the way, thanks for Dead Man Espresso for today's coffee.
Great coffee and great scones.